Hi, my name is Angeline Nicholson. I am a therapist and a psychic and a channel for healing. I also have a business called Color of Kismet. You can find us at colorofkismet.com. I encourage you to look us up. I wanted to talk to you today about filters, the filters that are created throughout our lives and the way that they end up informing all of our choices. I personally believe that these filters and the accumulation of these filters end up taking away our free will. And that is one of the big pushes that I have as a trauma therapist and just as a person in general, for people to work through their trauma, because the more you can, and let me pause and say trauma can mean a lot of different things. It doesn't have to mean one specific incident or one like really terrible experience. It can mean sort of all of those crunched together in one too. And I'm going to explain why that's true. But that's why I really encourage people to work through this stuff, because the more that you can work through it, the more you can shift your thinking, your perspectives, and shift your vibration, ultimately taking you to a place that feels better for you. So our filters are the things that end up being what we call like who we are. And, oh, that's just how she is. Oh, she's just going to say that. That's just the way she does stuff. Oh, you know how he is about the thing. Better not do that thing because you know how he is. These filters are the things that make up. That's the way that they are. That's the person that she is. All of our tastes and our neuroses and all of those things are made up from all of the little things that make these filters. And so I'm going to walk you through the way that these filters come to be, and this is the way that I talk to my clients about this also. And really, she waits. My dog likes to wait until I start filming. So this is the way that I describe it to my clients. Now, we are coming from the perspective of we're not in any kind of judgment about the way that these things came about. In other words, lots of these things that we're going to talk about happen in your childhood. I'm not interested in making your parents pay. I'm not interested in blaming anyone. What I am interested in doing, though, is taking as much of an objective approach as possible to look at a situation and say, yeah, that's probably why I have this, neurotic impulse around this thing. And, my mom didn't mean to do that. But and that's not always true. I'm not trying to negate the people who, didn't have parents. Understand this is not about our parents. This is about us. Okay, so example. A baby is new and the baby is taking a nap. And the baby wakes up. And the baby wants comfort, wants mother. So the baby begins to cry. Once the baby begins to cry, let's say mom is outside, doesn't hear, doesn't come, doesn't soothe. Let's say this happens not all the time, but often enough because, during his nap time, maybe she puts on her headphones and reads a book because it's the only time she gets all day. Maybe that's when she goes outside and makes phone calls. We don't know. I'm not in judgment. What we do know is that in this example, this particular baby experienced this enough that a neuropathway was created that included, let's say, freshly cut grass, the smell of freshly cut grass, the color blue, because that's what the baby saw. Let's say freshly cut grass, let's say blue, let's say the baby was crying because they were teething, so mouth pain is included in that. All right, so baby may not have the brain ability to understand any of those things, any of the feelings or the sensory information or anything, but that doesn't mean that a neuropathway cannot be created around it. So a neuropathway would be created around the baby feeling mouth pain and crying and smelling grass and seeing the color blue. And those things led to a belief, as much as a baby can. So understand, the neural pathway is created, the belief isn't there yet, but it's around that these things are all connected, right? My pain is not soothed. No parent showed up. No caregiver showed up. And these are all the things that I know, basically. Okay, so fast forward to age 5, where there have been countless other situations where, she pushed me, or you hurt my feelings, or, all these little injuries and pains that we have throughout our lives, they occur when we're little also. And let's pretend like they don't get soothed every time, because, what person can possibly soothe every single, hurt for a child? So then by age 5, there have been countless more experiences where other pains have happened and they've been left unsoothed. Now, we're not going to talk about new pathways because we're just going to stick to this original one. But please understand that many, many things happen, whether they were on purpose, whether they were with poor intentions or good intentions. They happen and they create these kinds of experiences. So understand that by the time we're in our 30s or 40s, we have lots of them. This is just one example. Okay, so by the time you're 5 years old, you've had countless situations where you've not been able to be soothed for whatever reason, creating neuropathways that include other stimulus. Okay, so and also by the time you're 5, you've strengthened this original one around not being soothed, blue, grass, mouth pain. Was that all of them? Yes. Because when you're a baby, you create the neural pathways through feeling. As you get older, you include emotion in that. You include more acute understandings of things also. So by age 5, you've heightened the negative impact of the sensory information, in addition to having heightened the impact of the neural pathway itself. So, in other words, the sound of lawnmowers by the time you're 8 or 9 or 10 gives you, maybe you have a little bit of an anxious response, like maybe you are afraid of it, maybe you run from it, maybe you just consider it to be bad. Maybe you don't like being outside because lawnmowers show up, and lawnmowers bring fresh cut grass, and fresh cut grass makes you feel weird in your body, but you don't understand any of that, okay? But that's the way it works. So it heightens the impact of blue, and so maybe blue is just not your favorite color. Maybe by the time you're a teenager, you're like, how come I've never dated anybody with blue eyes before? Maybe you just don't find them attractive, but maybe the reason you don't find them attractive is because blue has this association. Does that make sense? Okay, so pay attention to how just in this little tiny example that I'm giving you, you can see how this idea that your pain will not be soothed can be connected to all of these things, right? Because by the time you're 8 or 9, you might understand that feels lonely. By the time you're 15, you might have begun to believe or understand that there's a lot of unreliability and trust and mistrust around fresh cut grass and unsoothed pain and mouth pain. Maybe by the time you're a teenager and it's time to get those wisdom teeth out, you start to have panic attacks because you don't want to go to the dentist, because mouth pain equals unsoothed pain. And by then you've got a concrete belief that's connected to all these things that started when you were a newborn. And the belief turns into, I'm not important, or I'm insignificant, or I am not worthy. And if those usually become pretty solid as a belief by adolescence. So once again, you might have the neural pathway begin when you're a baby. You might understand different parts of it as you get older. And by the time you're a young teenager or a teenager, you begin to understand and make these associations. Well, it must be because I'm not important. You know, the reason that they're not reliable, the reason that they don't tell the truth, the reason that they are nice to me sometimes and not nice to me sometimes. So the actual filter, I call them pairs of glasses. So understand that this particular example that I'm giving you might result in a pair of glasses that say, I'm not worthy or I'm insignificant. And if you put those glasses on at 12, let's say, I mean, in theory, you started the whole thing when you were an infant, but by the time you were 12, you fully, like, it was in there. So imagine how that's going to inform your decisions about the classes that you take in high school, or if you're going to be involved with this sport or this organization, or be friends with these people. Imagine how that's going to inform your choices around what colleges you go to, or if you go to college, or what kind of work you want to do, or imagine how that impacts who you're comfortable with. If I don't believe that I'm important, and that's a belief that's in there and that's been in there for a really long time, how is that going to impact? I mean, it's already connected with trust and mistrust. So how is that going to impact who I feel comfortable with? Where am I going to accept a job? Now, I think that hopefully you can see that these choices then create situations that inform more and more and more choices. Maybe you can see how the way that we get into our modes of thinking sometimes just happen. And that's fine. There's nothing, that's why it's so important not to judge somebody, from where they came from, because the truth is that we get where we get out of survival. We're just all doing, the best that we can. Once we recognize, though, that what these filters do, and what they do is they make us feel unhappy. They make us feel anxious. They make us have beliefs that nobody's ever going to treat us well or love us the way that we need or want. Maybe we're never going to be able to own a home. Maybe we're never going to be able to get a job that, fill in the blank, recognizes our worth. There are a lot of things that we just sort of assume / believe because that's part of our filter. Once we see it, once you see that, and once you begin to understand that your depressions, your sadness, your jealousies, your reluctance to get involved with gardening, or why you don't, and literally anything that isn't making you happy, you can probably trace back to some filter, some pair of glasses. Being able to identify those beliefs within you and then be able to follow that belief, it takes a lot of courage. But if you can follow the belief down the rabbit hole and go, holy crap, this is about me not believing that I'm important, and that's why I chose this, or that's why I chose this, then it gives you the power to go, I can just choose differently, because that's not right. Because the truth is that while that might be a belief or a neural pathway that has been used a lot, we might believe differently. It's just that we've never looked at it before. Do you actually like the color blue? Like if you sit down and look at it, even though you can feel uncomfortable in your body when you look at blue, why do you feel uncomfortable in your body? And are you able to look at that and figure it out and possibly do something differently? You know, probably you are. I submit that because of these pairs of glasses, and we all, by the time we're 20, 25, we've at least got 15 or 20 pairs of glasses on, really and truly. Once you begin to see that they're removable and you begin to take them off and to see the truth about who you are and what the world really is and what your place in it really looks like, then you have so much more freedom. You open your life up times a million trillion. You're able to do things and achieve things and go places and believe whatever you want. Whatever, I always go for what is healthy. Like, what would a healthy person do? That's what my mentor told me a long time ago. Well, I don't know, Angelin, what would a healthy person do? And man, I carried that thing around with me forever. I remember being in my 20s and being in these situations at dinner parties or, at a bar or whatever with my friends and thinking to myself, whoa, something just happened. Okay, what would a healthy person do? Don't do what you've always done because you're doing that because of glasses, because of a belief. So I didn't understand that at the time, but I knew that I wanted to do the healthier thing and I needed to switch the neural pathway. I just didn't know how all that stuff got there at the time. So, take this with you and see how your own beliefs that have come up at different points in your life, how they've impacted your choices today, and how if you could take off a pair of glasses, and this is what I do in therapy with people, is I help them remove the glasses so that they can then view the future and the past and the present without that filter. And when they're able to do that, they have an entirely different reality. It's nuts and it's awesome. Challenge yourself to find what that reality is for you and see if you can take off some of these glasses. At least look at them. And then you can go and do what I've talked about in other videos around switching the neural pathway. And that's how it works. So hey, if you have questions or comments or whatever, please feel free to leave a comment under this video. Hit subscribe, hit like, and you'll be notified of videos that come out in the future. And again, find me at colorkismet.com. Once again, my name is Angelin Nicholson. Have a good day.